I was writing. That's really why I was writing. But she is, incredibly compelling. I mean, I thought she made some very compelling points on a broader level about, strength over wokeness, fairness over wokeness, strength over weakness. What did you think of some of those comments? And then I want to get to your family heritage, but I'm just curious your kind of reflections over here.
First, to Nayab, thank you very much for having me here. More importantly, thank you for what you do. The more we stay together as an Italian-American community, the stronger we are, and the stronger our voices. And passing on our history, you have an extraordinary treasure in John Calvelli, and let's give him a round of applause. Kellyanne is a friend. She is extraordinarily bright. As you saw, she is extraordinarily facile. I did a podcast with her several times. In our podcast, I got one word, hello. But she is a very, very powerful communicator and a great advocate for President Trump and a great asset for him. And she does make a compelling case. I see this entire situation a little different. Okay, I was a governor. A governor needs to get things done. Okay, and I'm from New York, and so that's a Democratic state. It's not really a Democratic state, right? It's about 55-45. I had a Republican Senate, which means you had to work together to get something done. And you had to get Democrats to work with Republicans, so you had to find commonality. Because if it's always about differences, we can do differences all day long. And we can get into respective corners and we will get absolutely nothing done. And that is what is happening in this country. This country is not working. It is not working. Public education system. What did we learn as an Italian-American community? It's all about education, education, education. My father went to a public education system, became governor of New York. That doesn't happen anymore. That lower level of public education just isn't working. We have homeless people on the street who are mentally ill. We can't figure out what to do with them. We can't even figure out how to build housing anymore as a nation. We have major, major problems that we are just not addressing. We're just not getting things done. And that's what concerns me. New York, I was there to get things done. I was not there to have an ideological dispute or score debating points with the other side or rally my people against the other side. I was there to find commonality and get things done. Just flew out of LaGuardia Airport. LaGuardia Airport.
Can we give a hand to LaGuardia Airport?
First new airport in this country in 50 years. How can that be? How can that be? They're building magnificent airports all around the world. That's the entry point, destination airports. That's the welcome mat. How can it be 50 years we haven't even built an airport? It's just not working. Somewhere along the way we lost our competence. We lost our ability, our challenge. We flew to the moon. And now we can't figure out how to put two bricks together. That's what is concerning me about this country. We go through a campaign. Donald Trump and Kamala Harris. Two totally different people. No doubt about it. Different personalities, different philosophies, different everything. We can debate the values of both or either. What I'm worried about is the morning after. I'm worried about the division. I'm worried about the anger. I'm worried about what Kellyanne said. We have differences. Yes, we have differences. And no time in our nation's history, besides the Civil War, have our differences been as loud and as powerful as they are now? And the differences will defeat us. The differences will defeat us. Whoever wins as president is probably not going to be all Democratic control or all Republican control. The Republicans will win something, the Democrats will win something, the House, the Senate, the President. And you're going to have to figure out how to work together if you're going to get anything done. And at this rate, that's not going to happen. Well, let's find compromise. Let's find commonality. No! Let's just stress the differences and make points with our base. And Democrat Republican. It's not about Democrat Republican anymore. It is about far left and far right. Extreme left, extreme right. You want to win a Democratic primary? You have to be a socialist. You have to be an ultra-progressive to win a Democratic primary. You want to win a Republican primary, you have to be to the far right. That's not where the American people are. They're not on the far left and they're not on the far right. They're in the reasonable center. And we have almost lost that. And we're never going to make peace between the far left and the far right. We're going to have to energize the moderate middle. And that's who we always were, center right, center left. But center was the main word, right? Not extreme left, extreme right. And we have to get back to that. What was the question?
Am I going to have to call you Kellyanne?
I'm not that good.
Well, you answered it very well in terms of your thoughts and reflections on that. Let me go back to what I asked Kellyanne at the beginning in terms of Italian American values and heritage. And how did those values and heritage shape you, your family, and your political career?
Everything. Everything. It is who I am, it's what I believe, it's my values, it's my principles, it's the way I socialize, everything. Everything. I'm from a mixed marriage. My mother's Sicilian, my father's from Naples. And that was a mixed marriage, best marriage. Oh no, Napolitans did not like the Sicilian. You know, it was like Sicily was a different place, right? That's where your mother's people are from. That's what they would say quietly. Your mother's people are from that place. So I grew up with that tension, that schism. And our grandparents were very close. Andrew and Andrea, my father's father, lived down the block, built our house. So like Kellyanne, we were together all the time. And those values were so powerful and so fundamental, right? I wish my kids, my generation, could hear my grandparents talk about their love for this country, right? How they would light up, and how my grandfather would tear up when he said, "God bless America," right? That generation that was given a life by this country, who came here because they had nothing. You didn't get on a boat and go to a place where you couldn't speak the language if you had anything, right? You came here because you had nothing. And God bless America and how they love this nation. Hard work. You worked. Nobody gave you anything. A frugality. You said they were conservative. Yes, conservative values, conservative financially. There was a frugality to them. But a generosity at the same time. I was an altar boy. My grandmother used to go to Mass every day. And I would pass the basket with the money. And my grandmother would put in them two collections. One was for the church, one was for the poor. And for the church, she would put in $10. Now, $10 was a big contribution. Everybody put in $1, $5 was big. Nobody put in $10. She put in $10. And for the poor, second collection, she put in $20. And my grandparents were cheap people. I mean cheap. This was a coupon clipping day. This was compare the price on the string beans. This is Tuesday. You know, we buy the dented can. It's a little discount. You know, listen to it. Something's on sale. We buy 4 cases of tuna fish, and that's what you eat is tuna fish because it's on sale.
It's turning into a Pat Cooper company.
And I said to my grandmother once, I said, you know, you put in $10 in the best. Nobody puts in $10 in the best. She said, no, for the church, you do it for the church. I said, then you give $20 for the poor collection. She says, the church has money. The poor, they need the money. There was a generosity to them, despite the frugality. And everything was family and together and loyalty. And education was the latter. It was the latter. That's what this country gave. As Kellyanne's point about fairness, it gave you a chance. Didn't guarantee you a damn thing. But it said, if you're willing to work, we'll give you an education system. And if you're willing to go and study and work hard and you have talent, your wings can carry you as far as you can fly. And that was the education system. Was the ladder of opportunity. And that's what worked, and that's what they stressed.
So I'm curious, when you think about the Harris campaign, right, and you think about her as a candidate, where do you see those values that you grew up with?
You know, I see the Harris campaign, she is talking about, in many ways, what I believe are kitchen table issues, right? She's talking about child care, which is a major issue and a major opportunity in this nation. If we actually took 3-year-olds and actually started to educate them in a universal care for 3-year-olds so the mothers could go back to work and start to really educate at 3 years old, I think that would be a major, major accomplishment. We did it in New York with pre-K, mandatory pre-K across the state. Freed up the workforce, got children a better education. She's talking about subsidies to buy your first home. You can't buy a home. You know, young people can't buy a home. They're 25, 30 years old, they're still living home. Get out, go buy your own home. Enough already. You know, 18 years old, my father basically said, okay, there's the door. I did what I had to do, you're 18. You know, my kids, I'm still paying everything. First time homeowner assistance, $25,000, small business assistance. These are the kinds of initiatives that I think can make a practical difference.
So I have to, she made some really good points, and Chuck got animated and concerned, and I think you touched on it too, this idea of some of the rhetoric in the campaign and the threat to democracy. Do you really believe there's a threat to democracy here?
The first on Donald Trump. We're both from Queens. I know him. Our families know each other. He went to my bachelor party. Stop the conversation right there.
Thank you.
Yeah. Family values. I went to his daughter's wedding. I worked with him during COVID, spoke to him every day. So I know him very well. I think, in terms of the tonality, I think Donald Trump does not serve himself well. I think he generates issues for himself. I think his verbiage, he says things he doesn't need to say. He has a harshness that he doesn't need. Kelly is right. Campaign is about the positivism and forward-looking. He can get nasty. And we all can get nasty. Just not when you have a camera looking at you, right? And I understand how frustrating, but I think that he does himself a disservice. The Harris campaign is now running ads that he's unhinged. Where did they get that from? From his behavior. So I think he's creating those issues for himself. There's no doubt that this is a nasty, divisive campaign. Because we are divided. You know, the problem isn't the campaign. The problem is the campaign is reading where the American people are and responding to the American people. And they are responding to those extremes, which I mentioned, that's the problem in the first place. But yes, it is negative, it is divisive. You can point fingers who went first, but it's like who threw the first stone. But I do believe he does not serve himself well. And I think he creates those issues for himself.
I just want to stick on this. Do you think we are in the middle of the threat to democracy?
Yes, I think we have threats to democracy. First threat to democracy. If people in this nation conclude the elections are rigged, all right, that's the first threat. The election was rigged. People voted who weren't allowed to vote. Somebody played with the numbers. That's the first threat. And that's January 6th, that's you can't trust the votes, I won, I lost. People believe that the election system is rigged, all bets are off. Second threat to democracy. The justice system becomes used as an avenue to attack political opponents. The justice system and prosecutors play politics and bring cases. And this is a very real thing. I was a prosecutor in the Manhattan DA's office. I was Attorney General. I used to say, if I target a person, I take their tax return, I'll find a way to indict them. No doubt about it. You can indict whoever you want to indict. Prosecutors are politicians. God didn't designate that person a politician, prosecutor. They ran for office. They're a sheriff. They're a district attorney. They're an attorney general. They want votes. They want headlines. They want publicity. They need to raise money. They are politicians. But they took an oath that they will do justice and it will be separate from politics. Yeah, but they're still human beings. And they have egos and they have ambitions. But U.S. attorney, yes, appointed by the senator from that state. Attorney General of the United States, appointed by the president. They are political. And what we're seeing more and more and more is they are using the justice system to punish political enemies. That, my friends, is a threat to democracy.
I'm going to ask this one question about the campaign, and then I really want to talk more about you. How do you see Harris winning? What's the roadmap to victory?
I don't know. I don't do it the way Kellyanne does it.
Because I was about to say to her, the fact is that in 2020, 70% of the vote in Pennsylvania was people that were on, kind of no high school education. That's down to 50% of the electorate now. 20% is lost. That is the Trump vote, right? So whichever way you want to look at it, you tell me what the...
I think it's 50-50. I don't know the numbers well enough to do a demographic in these swing states, the under college, over college, and midgets. I don't know. I think it's 50-50. I think Kamala Harris is going to win. I believe that. Not just because I'm a Democrat, but because I believe that she is going to win because people will find her more stable and optimistic and less controversial than Donald Trump. I don't think they want to go through more of this constant conflict and criticism and this division. Assassination attempts? We've gotten that polarized honest, we've gotten that insane, frankly, that we're trying to shoot political opponents, that we're prosecuting political opponents. And I think she is a reduced conflict level.
So I haven't had a chance really to have this type of conversation with you in quite some time. And I think everybody in this room remembers COVID and what occurred. And literally, we would turn the TV on and we would see you. And I remember moments when you were able to provide information on what was happening. There was this real sense of connection. Tell me a little, I can just give you my personal film, but give me, what was that like? What was that moment? The only thing I didn't like was that mountain. Hanging in the mountain. Where was that? I don't know. But sorry, that was, I never thought I'd have an opportunity to say that.
I don't know that you needed to reach it. It wasn't that big a thing, the mountain.
You told me it's one of the time. I'm like,
it was a curve. It wasn't a mountain. It was a curve. And then I have to look at the curve every day. I said, put some green in there. So I put little trees. Anyway, COVID is important because it is going to happen again. Okay? It is going to happen again. If you track over 20 years the viruses and how they become more and more virulent, COVID was almost predictable 20 years ago. You can go a long argument about Wuhan and who started it, but there's no doubt. I was there for Ebola. I was there for H1N1. Each one more frightening than the other. What most frightened me, well, COVID was the hardest thing I ever did in my life. And I could never go through it again, to tell you the truth. I just wouldn't have the strength to do it. The real fear in a situation like COVID, or hurricanes, floods, etc., is panic and chaos. Panic and chaos. You have 8 million people in New York City, they panic, you have a problem.
you have chaos.
You have chaos. They think they can't get food, they start to break windows, you have chaos. So, keeping a sense of calm, a sense of you're getting information, it's going to be okay. That's what the briefings were about, right? You're in your house, you're scared to death, you can't touch anything, you can't touch anyone, you can't walk out the door, nobody's telling you where it comes from. Just calm. What was frightening to me was nobody knew what they were talking about. You know, we live, or I live, with this construct that somebody somewhere knows what they're doing. Somebody is in charge of nuclear weapons and they know what they're doing somewhere. We don't know them, but there's somewhere. Someone's in charge somewhere. COVID, well, there must be someone somewhere who knows what's going to happen. I had them all in my office. Head of the World Health Organization, the best epidemiologists, the best people from China who were working on, best people from Italy. No one knew anything. They had a range from apocalyptic. New York would have needed 150,000 hospital beds. The entire state would only have 48,000 hospital beds, right? China's on TV with people dying in the hallways because they overwhelmed the hospital system. Nobody knew. And we were doing things that had never been done before. And government didn't even have the ability to do it. I had no legal authority to say, close your business. I had no legal authority to say, you must wear a mask. It was, I had to give you the information that brought you to that conclusion. And I had to give you the information that you believed, and you got past your cynicism. Well, he's a Democrat, he's a Republican, he's a this, he's an Italian. I had to get your credibility and your buy-in on the facts to get you to a point where you did things that you never did in your life. And that's what the briefings were about, which ties into my point about the extremes and the middle. There is a middle. People are reasonable if you treat them reasonably and intelligently, and you give them the information. So the first part of the briefing, I used to say, here are the facts. These are the facts. Forget I'm a Democrat, forget I'm a man, forget anything. Here are the facts. This is the number over here, this is the number over here, this is what it was yesterday, this is what it was tomorrow, this is what they're projecting for this, it's going like this, and then it comes like that. It's the mountain we did tonight. Here are the facts. This is what we know. This is what we're told, which I don't know is a fact. I would say 100% honest. And then I would stop and I would say, here's my opinion based on those facts. I think everybody should wear a mask. I think we should do social distancing. I think we should do this. Based on the facts, but you decide based on the facts. Democrat, Republican, we had total buy-in in New York. No state had a higher infection rate than the state of New York did. And no state had as dramatic a turnaround. When you look at the end of the day, New York that had the highest infection rate on the globe and was out of control. At the end of the day, we were number 30 in terms of total deaths in the country, meaning 30 states had a higher death rate than New York. And remember, the other states had notice and they had time. We were ambushed. So it worked. New Yorkers did a phenomenal job. And when I say, talk about the Italian tradition, I did it 7 days a week for months. And I was frightened. I didn't know if anyone knew what was going on. But I had to get up there every morning and convey the information honestly, but with a sense of calm and a sense of confidence. And I would lay in that bed, because you're working 24 hours a day, and then the next day's numbers would start to come in 1 o'clock in the morning. I would lay in that bed and I'd say, you know what? I just don't have the strength to get out of bed today. I just can't do it today. I'm going to take today off. I can't get myself up to that point to do it. And I would hear my father, God rest his soul, and he would say, it's not about you. Who cares how you feel? You are in public service and this is about helping others. That's what this is. So get your hiney out of the bed and go do what you're supposed to do.
So you raised the comment about public service, and you've taken a bit of a hiatus. There's, and I know you're going to make an announcement here today, so everybody ready.
John Calvelli should run for mayor of New York City. What do you say? I endorse it.
I just got my first endorsement. Thank you very much. Exactly. No one called my wife, please. She'll take a different approach. But let me ask you that question, right? If Mayor Adams should leave, are we going to be busy?
First, everyone, not everybody here is from New York, but
How many of you are from New York?
okay,
Okay.
Many people are calling on Mayor Adams to resign because he was indicted by the U.S. Attorney in New York. I do not believe he should resign because he was indicted, because I believe in the process, and as I said before, we're getting a little too free with prosecutors playing politics with indictments. I believe that. And I believe he should have his day in court. Now, there's a second argument that says, well, he's so distracted by what's going on, he can't go, which I take as a serious responsibility, and I'm sure he does too. That it's creating too many people are leaving, and it's distracting governance of New York City. If that's the case, the governor of New York has the legal responsibility to remove the mayor. So if you get
the authority.
And the authority. And if you get to the point where you say, well, the mayor's just too distracted, too many people are leaving, then the governor has the authority to remove. And I'm sure that the governor would fulfill her constitutional responsibility diligently. But I don't think he should resign because he's indicted. I think it only feeds this prosecutorial, let's indict the person, and that's how we win an election. If the mayor was to leave, then it would be an open race. The city is in terrible shape on many, many levels. I've seen the cycles up and down. This is different. You have 500,000 people in the state of New York, more people left than any state in the United States. Post-COVID, cities are in a different position. You don't have to be there. You don't have to go to work tomorrow morning in the city. So the city has to be attractive. It has to be safe. It has to be clean. It has to be economic. It has to be affordable. Otherwise, you don't go. And that's a major transition because New York City is not clean and safe and attractive, right? So cities writ large are in a delicate place. New York City is the epitome of that in some ways. And we are at a crucial point, I believe that. I believe you can lose a city. I was the HUD Secretary, Housing and Urban Development, which managed cities all across the country. You can lose a city. You lose your revenue base, you just can't provide the police, you can't provide the quality of life. It is something that I would consider, but it is not about one person. There's no one person you can elect who is going to be able to turn New York City around. It is what we started with. New York City, many cities are democratic, and you have an extreme left that is driving the policy. Defund the police. 3 dumbest words ever stated in politics. Invite all the migrants, welcome migrants. Come to the city of New York, 100,000, $10 billion per year, no plan, sit in a hotel room for 7 years until you have a federal hearing, and you can't work in the meantime. This is smart, right? This far left is driving the discussion. And one person does not defeat that, because there's a city council, there are other elected officials. You have to change the whole political dynamic, which we did in New York. I took over as governor of New York. People don't remember. It was the most dysfunctional government in the United States. And it had the same type of orientation. But we had a whole political movement. You know, you have to motivate that middle. Where are the small business owners? Where are the businessmen? Where are the mothers saying, I'm afraid that my children are going to go outside and be attacked? Where are the people saying, I'm afraid to send my kid to school because my public school just doesn't work? They have to be motivated. They have to be part of it. Otherwise, one person is not going to do it. The old story my father used to tell of the Italian general. The Italian general is at the base of the mountain. The enemy is up at the top of the mountain. And the Italian general turns to the troops and he says, the enemy is at the top of the mountain. I know we're outnumbered. I know you're tired. I know you're outgunned, but we're going to charge up that mountain. And we're going to fight for Bella Italia. And we're going to win because we are right. And he gets on his horse and he turns around and he charges up to the top of the mountain. The general gets to the top of the mountain and he looks and hears all the enemies in front of him and he turns around. None of the troops follow him. They're still at the bottom of the mountain. That's right. The enemy, and General, troops at the bottom say, keep bella voce. You send one person to do this. Keep bella voce. You need that support and that movement behind you.
So we're going to take two quick questions as we did for Kellyanne, and then my very important final question. Carlos Cesaro, New York Building Congress.
It's wonderful to see you, Governor.
Wait, we've got to...
Oh, sorry.
It's wonderful to see you, Governor. We could talk a lot about your accomplishments in New York, but you talked about two things earlier that tied together. The middle, which clearly you galvanized, and LaGuardia Airport. And I think when you look at what happened in the decade that you were there, people got to work, we rebuilt infrastructure, we rebuilt what the state, the city, the region looks like. What would your advice be to both Trump and Harris about how to get infrastructure built and create middle-class jobs, rebuild gateways to cities and nations, and just take a minute and tell us how you did it? Because I know you don't like to pat yourself on the back, but we should, because under your tenure, we rebuilt New York State. And I think it's an important lesson for a country that has the worst infrastructure of any major nation in the world.
Yeah, it's a great point. And by the way, thank you for your leadership and what you've done to the state. Government is supposed to do something, right? Government is a service bureau. It is there to perform. That's why I resist this, well, let's discuss politics and the left and the right and let's fight. I don't want to fight. I want to figure out how to find a way to get the government to build again. You look at everything we have in this country. We built a phenomenal nation. Eisenhower built an entire highway grid system. Empire State Building, tallest building in the year, and the world, built in 1 year in the middle of the Depression. And they built it in 1 year. John Kennedy says we go to the moon, we go to the moon. We can't accomplish anything anymore. We don't even try to accomplish anything. It's as if we're even stymied by the idea of doing something. I'm a big believer in physical projects. Why? Number one, they do fuel the economy, right? FDR's logic, build everything everywhere, parks, schools, courthouses, tunnels, roads. It fuels the economy, and it shows people, you want to talk about optimism and positivism. It touches people, it improves their lives, and they see something happening. And they see government working, so they go to a new LaGuardia Airport and say, oh my God, look at this, something happened. I don't know who did it, why, but there's a new airport, right? New Tappan Zee Bridge, we have in New York. Tappan Zee Bridge, for 30 years they talked about how it was going to collapse, traumatized 4 generations of people. Every time you drove over the Tappan Zee Bridge, you thought that was it. You opened the window, you took off your seatbelt, you unlocked the door, and you started to get ready to swim. Right?
By By the way, he's not kidding.
Oh no, it had these holes in the top of the bridge with a metal plate over the hole. And you'd watch the car in front of you go over the plate would move a little bit. And you'd see a little daylight between the plate and the hole. You know, the new bridges, new Second Avenue subway, new Moynihan, so you don't have to go to the Penn Station. Get something done. Build schools. It's if you focus on it, it is not hard. It is not hard. You just have to reorient yourself that you're not there to defeat the other side in some ideological debate. You're there to make life better for people in tangible ways. You're there to make a difference. God gave you a gift in public service. He gave me a gift. He said, I'm giving you an opportunity to help people from a very high, powerful position. Do something. Use the opportunity. Hear the better angels and let the better angels do something and accomplish something and let the American people believe in America once again.
We've been saying they both agree on one thing. They both quoted Abraham Lincoln. So that's a great Republican president, by the way. One more question. Una domanda. Nessuna una domanda. David.
Governor Cuomo, my name is Paul Finizio. I live in Florida.
We don't hold that against you.
PK, I'm the president of an organization called El Circo. One of the things I'd like to ask you is, because you're in a densely populated city in New York, why is there such a challenge throughout not only New York, but in Florida? You can buy guns anywhere. We have gun theme parks. I subscribe to something that's massshooting.com. It's every day. It's like, give us the day of daily shooting. Why is it that our governmental officials who are even shot at the difference that Donald Trump's and even campaign locations, why is it that it's so difficult to make progress in this country, which deals with carnage because of these guns that you travel to Italy, I travel to Italy, Europe, most of my time is I'm starting to pretend I'm German now. So I have to tell
I love you, but we're so behind.
why can't we make progress on that?
Because it is the symbol of the division we've been talking about. No one will even talk about common sense. The one side says constitutional right to have a gun, constitutional right to have any gun. The Constitution gives me a right to have a gun because it's the way I protect myself from government control. You arm the citizenry so they can control the government if the government gets too powerful. And it is absolute. That's the Second Amendment argument. The other side, I passed the strongest gun safety law in the United States of America in New York. You have a right to a gun, but you don't need an assault weapon. You don't need a gun that fires over the top. Before we sell you a gun, we're going to do a background check to make sure you're not mentally ill, right? Common sense. Common sense. Yes, you have an amendment, constitutional amendment right to have a gun. Yes, you want to hunt. Yes, you have a tradition. I own a gun. No one's saying you can't own a gun. But we have to be somewhat realistic about the danger that it poses when it's in the wrong hands. Especially these guns, which are the equivalent of machine guns. 1939, we outlawed machine guns. The NRA supported it. Why? Because they were too dangerous. And you didn't go hunting with a machine gun. And nothing good happened with a machine gun, right? That's an assault weapon today. Why were we capable of that reasonableness in 1939? Today, we can't agree on anything because as a matter of principle, we don't want to agree. Because whatever one side says, we're going to oppose. It's that rigidity, that inflexibility, that combativeness right away that is frustrating any meaningful compromise because the truth is always somewhere in the middle. Nobody's always right and nobody's always wrong. That's what it was all about. They wrote the Declaration of Independence, the first Constitution, the Articles of Confederation. They compromised on everything. Everything. Urban, rural, agrarian. That's what it is. It was a reasonableness of people who focused on what united rather than divided and brought goodwill to the exercise. We are in the exact opposite place, even with an issue as obvious as guns, where you're shooting school children, you're shooting people in grocery stores, mentally ill people can have an assault weapon. And an assault weapon, the police won't even go near the person. The police come in when there's a break because the person has to reload the gun. That's when the police can make their move. An assault weapon, you have assault weapons that can hold 100 bullets in a magazine. It's madness, but it is indicative of this polarity.
So, last question for you. Would you have your daughters get involved? Are your daughters involved in politics? And would you recommend that your daughters get involved in politics and in public service?
I would not recommend it. And it makes me sad to say that. Because public service is, in my opinion, the greatest opportunity to do good things for the greatest number of people. Budget for the state of New York, $200 billion. Yes, you can do philanthropy, you can volunteer, you can do a lot of good things. But government, you can change people's lives, right? So it's a tremendous opportunity to do good. Today's environment is so toxic and so nasty and so personal that you put yourself through tremendous pain, which I have felt. But you know what? That was my decision. You put your family through pain and deprivation. And it is, even though you can do great things, the nastiness, the toxicity is so high today that I wouldn't want to see my daughters exposed to that poisonous brew. I really would. And I'm sad to say that.
Well, that is a sad statement, and hopefully, as I looked at the data from that poll, and I know you're a number cruncher as well, there is a fundamental belief in our country, and we need people like you who care about our country to be in government, also like your family.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
So, with that, I want to thank everyone for being here. We'll just give Governor Cuomo and Kellyanne Conway a big hand for a really important conversation.
Thank you.